Hello, this is Christy Jones, holistic health and mindfulness educator, and I wanted to share one of my favorite children's book with you today. One of my all-time favorite books is a book called Good Night Opus. This book is by Berkeley Breathed, and so I wanted to take a few minutes and read this book with you. Let me get it open. Okay, Good Night Opus. Here's the picture right here. Which book, dear Opus, may I read you tonight? Asked Grandma with love at the start of the night. Why, my favorite, I said, the one with the rhymes, the same one you've read to me 209 times. And just as it is with all proper grannies, she ordered me into my pink bunny jammies. Then she sat and said, hush, and her voice filled the room. Good night, she read softly. Good night to the moon. Right there. And good night to the lamp and the little toy boat. Good night to the mittens all hanging and soaked. Good night to the floor. Good night to the walls. Good night to the rug and the doors and the halls. Good night, tiny mouse, and good night, blue moonshine. Grandma read for the 210th time. I can't really say how this happened next. After 210 times, I departed the text. Here's the pictures. There you go. Let me show you the picture first. Good night, I yelled, jumping. Good night, far away. Good night to all of you in my Milky Way. Sit back down, Grandma said. Get back into bed. There is no one up there, and that's not what I read. When your sight surpasses what's plainly in view, pull your head from the clouds, keep the ground to your shoes. Now let's finish this story with no Milky Ways. It's improper that folks get so carried away. Here we go. But she read no further, she said nothing more. Yes, Grandma had paused for a snooze and a snore. Now I take full blame for all that came next. I continued the story, but departed the text. There's Grandma, there's Opus. Good night, I yelled down to the chap beneath my bed. Good night, you big nose, blue-fitted bipped. I'm sorry I've missed you each night but tonight. I was told not to focus on things out of sight. Yes, good night, said the beast with his toes taffy blue. I've been here for years and not noticed you. Here we go. The blue-footed creature under his bed that he was told not to pay attention to. Here's our next picture. Let's finish your story and get carried away. We'll wish them good night in that far Milky Way. My friend winked to me as his voice dropped to whispers. Let's go there ourselves, wish it right to their kissers. A team is what we need, that's just what I said. So we signed up my pillow and gave him a head. But what of dear Grandma? There's no need to tell her. We hoisted and snuck her down to the fruit cellar. She'd hear nothing there as she snored in her slumber, comfy and snug under tons of cucumber. Our crew was complete, my Milky Way team. Here's our Milky Way team. We boarded our Milky Way flying machine. Powered by dreams with some blue-footed help, we launched from the roof and let out a yelp. Good night to the city, good night all you people. Then sideswiped a kitty and shortened a steeple. Can you see the cat? We flew past a ferry in need of some sleep. She'd spent the whole night just collecting old teeth. They rose to her girdle and covered her feet. There were heaps upon heaps 2,000 feet deep. Good night, we yelled down, and she waved us over. She wished to resell us an old Elvis molar. There's the tooth fairy. We dropped in to check on the Washington scene, where we talked to Abe Lincoln and told him our scheme. He said he himself had chased a few dreams, but now that he's marble, he wished for small things. And what, I then asked, would you like to do most? A swan dive, he said, so we stripped and did two. We flew past the sailors of Blue Miss Lagoon, where for 10,000 years they fished for the moon. They've seen it up there and just wanted to hook it. They dream that one day they might baste it and cook it. Good night, I called down. We'd help, but we're late. We're off to the stars, and they yelled, bring some bait. We flew through the clouds, and that's where we met all those wonderful folks aboard that big jet. We yelled them good night till our faces turned purple, but theirs turned to white, like they'd swallowed a gerbil. We haven't a clue as to what caused the scare. We slipped by quite nicely with inches to spare. Then we soared higher up till the whole sky was filled with lovable friends from the Milky Way spilled. A little bit of a close call. Now they're in the Milky Way. They're all above us, 6 billion udders. No cow dads around, just milky cow mutters. Good night, I cried out. Good night, one and all. Then they served us ice cream for a Milky Way ball. 'Twas time to go home, and they wept and said no. Then they kissed us good night, all 6 billion or so. So here's the freshest of up to now tips. If you're due a cow smooch, avoid those cow lips. I found my way home and collapsed on the floor. I got not long before Grandma showed up at the door. I told her all of what happened that night, and I stepped out for once and followed my sight, and that sometimes it's good that we look for a way to depart from our text and get carried away. See Grandma's shadow? She doesn't look very happy. For years I've thought back how Grandma had listened to all the great things I had said she'd been missing. How that night she had paused at the foot of my bed and smiled at those Milky Way cows overhead. I sure like to think that one night or the next. See Grandma looking out the window? She will get carried away and depart from the text. The end. So where do you think Grandma's gonna go on her adventure of departing from the text? And if you were gonna take a journey, where might you go? What would your adventure look like if you were gonna take a wild adventure? What could you imagine and where would you go? Isn't that so fun? So I hope you liked Good Night Opus, and I love the pictures and the creativity. Hope you enjoyed this story. Have a great day.